game week, if you want to consider. We do play on Sunday, but it's game week, and we're pretty excited. We're excited to get this season started. We've had a scrimmage and an exhibition game and inter-squad game, played against each other quite a bit. We're excited to get going. Sean Kemp has a torn patella tendon on his knee and will not require surgery, but will be out 6 to 8 weeks. We anticipate getting him back by conference.
How does that impact the rotation?
It doesn't impact the rotation, but it impacts a guy that was turning the corner, an offensive weapon. We thought he's really playing good. He had probably become our best low post threat in terms of bigs. So it takes away from what we were doing earlier because he was playing really well.
Did that happen during practice game?
It kind of came on. It wasn't one fall that he did it. It just kind of came on. It was bothering him. And when he was looked at, that's what it was.
Do you have a little better feel maybe for what to expect, having had the exhibition and the overseas games and stuff? Do you know this team a little better than some?
A little better. And if you ask me specific questions, I could probably give you a better answer than I could a month ago. So otherwise, it would be the same things I've been saying. Just it's a together group. It's a team. I think it has the ability to play good defense.
Have they totally come together in terms of, it seems like there's some struggles in the exhibition game and the overseas. I mean, are they still working through things? Would you have liked to have seen more progress out of them? Or?
I wouldn't call it struggles. I actually thought we've done pretty good. When you call struggles, if those games were played in January, I'd say we'd have struggles. But when you're talking about 10 days of practice in August, I wouldn't call them struggles. I thought we did a pretty good job. If you're talking about an exhibition game, we weren't sustaining a defensive effort in that game. We're talking October. Again, if that's January, struggle. In October, I don't see it as a struggle. I think our guys are coming together pretty good.
So is there really anything you can take from the exhibition game? Or?
Oh, yeah. Against that team, if we played just a bunch of guys that came straight from the tavern and hooped it up, that'd be a different story, but that wasn't quite the case. That was the defending national champs. It was D2, but they were pretty good. They scored 87 points against Duke after they left us, so you can definitely draw from a game like that. They came back, cut the lead down considerably in the second half when we played against them, and our guys, I didn't think were rattled at all. Our guys maintained their poise and in some ways tightened the screws a little bit at that point. So that was good to see.
So does it kind of help to maybe have a game that rattles them early on, so it helps them prepare to have
a
cookie-cutter game?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, even though a crowd can't be there, we try to do our closed-door scrimmage on the road. We try to do that just to give a sense of staying in another hotel the night before a game and preparing on the road for a game. We try to simulate that.
How many starting positions are rock solid right now?
Pardon?
How many starting positions are rock solid right now?
4. When I say rock solid now, doesn't mean March. It means in our first game.
Can you tell us which ones?
Aziz, Abdul, CJ, and Scott. Those 4.
And if you don't have Kemp now in the front court, how does that impact the competition at the power forward spot?
There's still competition because you still have 4 guys there that are competing for minutes. So Aziz, Martin, Jannard, and Desmond all compete for the minutes there.
Lorenzo, I know you can't, I know the scrimmage is super secret, you can't talk specifics, but general thoughts coming out of it in terms of either players that impress or?
To not get into any gray areas, I'll just say overall in the big picture, I think we're a lot closer to being the type of defensive team we want to be now than we were last year, even maybe at the end of last year. I think we were making progress that way, and I think that in the big picture, I think our guys have picked up our new offense to a point where we have a decent feel for it. It's not the finished product at all. We still have to get better at it, but that's what I would say.
Are you further along than you thought you would be in terms of both offense and defense, picking up the system and guys getting a feel for it? Are you further along in that?
We're further along offensively than I thought we would be. Defensively, we're getting to where I hope we would be at this point in the first week of November. Not where we need to be real successful this year, but at this point, with less than a month of practice, we're getting close to where I would hope we would be.
So is that okay to not be fully there defensively, kind of where you're, like you said, you hope where you are, but is it okay to not be right there defensively and maybe kind of work out those as you go?
I don't know if you have an option. I just don't know if any team around the country is as good as they're going to be in January defensively right now, just because it takes time. Even with a veteran team, it takes time. But the thing is, there are teams that aren't necessarily, that we play against, aren't necessarily where they're going to be offensively either. So it kind of evens out a little bit. But that does not mean we're not ready to play games now defensively. I believe we're ready to go play and defend.
With that fifth spot, there's probably competition. You know, I'm guessing Desmond is in there. Andrew.
All of them are in there. I would say all the guys I mentioned. We got those guys on the perimeter, and then the other spot are the four guys I mentioned. Three guys are fighting for that spot: Jannard, Martin, and Desmond. And when I say that spot, they get their name called earlier. That doesn't mean they're going to play more minutes than the guy that doesn't start. Doesn't mean that, but players are big on getting their name called, and everybody, that's what gets announced who the starters are. Doesn't mean that's who's going to play the most.
Can you envision where Andrew would get in that, just another small, or do you definitely need another big, just depending on the
It's
game?
three: Scott, CJ, Andrew. Scott, CJ, and Abdul. But Andrew is just like a starter. If we could start four perimeter, we would. Andrew, we wouldn't have a problem doing that. So last year, Tony, Abdul, Terrence, CJ, you could argue as to who should start out of those. And whichever one didn't was good enough to start. So to me, it didn't matter. You look at their minutes, they all played. It's the same situation this year.
Does the injury with Kemp, does that hurt the size of your rotation? Because at times last year, injuries did shorten that rotation, which forced you to play guys more minutes, which didn't allow you to play the defense that you want to play.
It doesn't affect, let me say, if you have guys that are not ready to play, not ready to impact the game and contribute in a positive way, it impacts your rotation if you want to stay at a high level throughout the game of play. But if you have guys that can replace and rotate to keep you at the high level, and a guy goes out, it doesn't affect your rotation at all. Someone else just takes his place. You know, the ultimate example, and we don't have this, was the Wally Pipp situation with Lou Gehrig, where Wally Pipp's the starter, he gets hurt, he never gets back in lineup because the other guy was better anyway. He just wasn't starting. Okay, so that's the ultimate example. I'm not saying it's like that, but it's not like one guy gets hurt and now you got to play guys 40 minutes. Last year it was a little like that because Scott was a potential starter. So now you have a potential starter that can't play at all, and now you replace those minutes with someone that may not have the chance to start. So you got to go with those starters the whole time. That's different than I think now the situation with the front court, because the guys that are in there are capable. Now, the one issue is Sean was a guy that he had emerged as throwing the ball, he's going to score. That's how we felt. That's something that someone's got to be able to pick up and do, step up and do. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I want to make sure I was understood.
Who's showing signs early of being that low-post offensive threat?
I don't know if it's as much of a low-post offensive threat, but Jannard has really stepped up, Jannard Giroux. he's really stepped up and made consistent plays for us. So he's emerging.
And is that something that you really hadn't had since Matthew Bryan, having, you know, somebody that you could throw it down there and kind of get something good?
I would say consistently, you know, Matthew drew double teams. Matthew could go out and score 25. You just kept feeding him the ball. He could score it that way. You know, we haven't been consistent that way since he left. But that's not how Jannard scores either now. So Jannard is not necessarily throw the ball to him on the block and score like Matthew did. But I'm saying he has emerged to where he's able to become more of a playmaker. He does it differently than Matthew or John Brockman or Jamal Williams, any of those guys. Totally different player than those guys. But he finds a way to impact.
Has Aziz improved enough sufficiently to be a real threat on the low blocks?
What is a real threat? I'm sorry to keep doing this, but Shaq is a threat. You throw him the ball, he's going to score it or he's going to get fouled.
So
Bobby Jones, yeah, right. Bobby Jones averaged 11 points a game for 3 straight years. Was he a scoring threat? We didn't run one play for him. One time we ran a play for him. Other than that, he just scored within the framework of the game. So was he a guy, let's get the ball to Bobby? No. John Brockman, get the ball to John. Aziz has not shown he's a guy, get the ball to Aziz. But could he still average a double-double? Yes. So there's a difference. He will score points, but I don't know if he's where he just, oh, I can throw the ball down there, and I know he's going to score or get fouled. I don't know if that's the case yet.
And is that surprising for someone who, like, he shoots 54%, but he just hasn't?
What was Dikembe Mutombo?
Jeez, you're asking.
I mean, Mutombo scored points. He scored. I don't know if he was the guy they went to all the time, though, to score points for them. You know, there are many players that have played in the post over the years that weren't necessarily the guys with all the moves, with the Olajuwon, the Tim Duncan moves, but they still would go out and get you 12, 13 points just because they were around the action and they got stuff done. So I wouldn't say it's unusual. And as a matter of fact, you look across the country, those guys that do that are at a premium. I don't know, you know, it's not, every team doesn't have one nowadays.
Of all the teams you've had here, Lorenzo, are you maybe the most curious to see how this new offense and Abdul's senior year and new staff, how high is the curiosity entering this season with all that's changed?
I don't know. I don't know as much curiosity as excited anticipation.
Why not? So it sounds like you know what you might be getting.
Have an idea. Yeah, have an idea. Again, CJ, Abdul, Scott, and Aziz, those guys have been around for a while, so you kind of have an idea. We've had an exhibition, we've had a scrimmage and 6 games on a foreign tour, so you kind of have an idea of where the offense is a little bit. But just, all right, we've prepared, we've kind of seen sample results here. Okay, now let's see if what we've seen is going to hold true in the games.
When you talk about the defense versus where the defense was at the end of last year, is there a new desire among these guys that you have to sort of teach them how to want to play, or is it as simple as maybe a couple guys left? Is the desire differently in the defense now because of who's here, because you're really impressed upon them that this is what we're going to do?
I just named 4 guys that are going to start Sunday that have been in our defensive system for a minimum of 3 years now, minimum. So you're talking about 4 guys in the starting lineup that really understand and are committed to our defensive principles. So that in itself is going to make you a little better in that regard. We didn't have that last year. We didn't have that in 2007. We had a young team in 2007. There were multiple guys that hadn't grasped it yet. And then Andrew Andrews is a redshirt freshman. Jannard Giroux is a redshirt freshman. They've had a year under their belt. Desmond Simmons is a redshirt sophomore. Martin was here. So there are a lot of guys. Akeem Stewart was here that already have an understanding of what we're doing. So the makeup of our team helps you that way. Be better defensively.
Was commitment or understanding the biggest?
Understanding last year
That's what was understanding.
had a lot to do with it.
When it comes to the rotation,
Going into the game on Sunday, what's your biggest concern? What's that one thing that you really need to see, really need to come out of that game and come out with?
We have to be able to rebound with this team. That's the thing that we'll be paying a lot of attention to, how well we rebound the ball.
And how have they done so far? Is it
So far, so good. Hasn't been great, but it hasn't been alarming either. We've rebounded better than I thought we would, I'd say that, at this point. But we haven't played a real game yet, so we'll see.
getting back to camp being out 6 to 8 weeks, last year Austin started around mid to late January. Is that kind of, with that timetable, is that maybe you want to try and see if you can get Austin to play again this year, maybe around the same time or a little bit earlier? Have you talked to Steve since? Is that...
We don't usually talk about basketball during their football season. If he brought it up, I'm good, but I'm not bringing it up. So, I don't know what the thinking is, but we keep, man, I shouldn't say this like a fan, I'm going to say this like a coach. If we can continue to get better and build on our foundation, we have a great chance to get a bowl bid. That's what I would say. If that were to happen, because nothing's promised,
Right.
we would continue to get better and have a bowl bid, then if Austin does play, it would take a little longer. We're not sure where we're playing Utah Saturday at 7:30, and that's where we're focused right now. So we don't want to talk about the bowl yet, but
So ideally, would you like to be able to have Austin? I'm not saying bowl or not. Would you like to be able to have Austin?
oh, sure.
Is he, so you like to have him, but is it something you're factoring in now, or is it kind of something you maybe have to plan for as a 50-50 shot right now?
He played last year, so you have to assume he says he wants to play again. You have to assume he's going to play. So we prepare for that.
Do you have a thought on his fantastic season that he's having?
I'm just fired up, man. He's a stud. Fun watching him play.
You cringe when you see him limp though a little bit?
For our football team, we need him. He's got to be in there. Like I said, though, he's a stud. He'd be in there. He'd bounce back.
What do you most hope to accomplish with the coaching changes, as far as how it works on the floor?
Well, make sure we're all on the same page. We've got to do that. And, Lamont Smith has come in. He has a defensive mindset. And Coach Jackson has coached it all because he's been a head coach forever, but he also is very good offensively. So along with what we already have, just continue to mesh together and let all those guys put them in position so that they can use their strengths.
Have their roles really been kind of delineated and determined by you, to how they fit in and, like you said, use their strengths?
If you watch our practices right now, you would not see Coach Smith is working with only the defense. Coach Jackson's only working with the offense. I would think more Coach Jackson is down there with the bigs. Coach Smith is with the guards. You see that. But right now, it's more all of us together. We meet as a staff. We talk about it. Each guy kind of has a bent. What his bent is in practice, they kind of watch those things a little closer than the others. So they know what they're looking at. But if you were to watch our practices, I don't know if you'd just be able to say, oh yeah, it's obvious. That's the part of the game he's taking. I don't know if you'd be able to say that.
Is that something you've done in the past, Lorenzo, in terms of just kind of allowing them a lot of freedom and flexibility to kind of do what they do in order to make the team better?
Always try, just like the players, try to utilize anyone's strengths. However, in the past, you know, as an assistant at UCLA, Coach Lavin, Steve Lavin, he kind of ran our defense. And then when I became a head coach, Randy Bennett, who's the head coach now, he ran our defense. We go in there, we talk about what we wanted to look at, and you know, I got to a point where I was comfortable with Randy. I'd say, well, what do you think drill-wise today? He'd say, well, I think this is what we probably need to look at. And I would say, okay, I don't know how good we've been in defensive transition. Let's put some defensive transition in there today, okay? Well, then let's cross this out. And then we get out on the floor, and he kind of ran the drills, and I oversaw the whole thing. And then Cameron Dollar joined us at St. Louis and kind of watched Randy do it. And then when Randy became a head coach, we turned it over to Cameron. It was an easy transition. And then when we came here, Cameron did the same thing. And then when Cameron left, we all kind of coached it as a team, and that's what we've been doing. And I could see eventually Coach Smith kind of being given the reins to take on that role as well.
Do you hope the collective group is going to be better, for example, in game management, or is it more about player management, recruiting, and those sorts of things?
Well, I always think your talent, you get best coach out there, and they'll say what a gritty team he had, but they're not playing in March. They don't have any talent. And usually, if you don't know much, but you've got some talent, you're probably playing in March. Last year we had some talent, but we also had some key injuries. We won our league. We didn't quite make it to the tournament. With this group coming in here, I think that in the years past, I thought we were fine with our staff, and in this year there are different faces, but I think we'll be fine with this staff as well.
Coach, I know time's tight, but one thing I'm still trying to get my arms around is you had one coach leave, you brought in 2 new ones, and I'm still trying to figure out how that all works with Coach Fortier.
Coach Fortier's title is Director of Player Development. So Coach Fortier cannot go on the road and recruit, cannot be on the floor coaching. Coach Shaw, Coach Jackson, Coach Smith are all on the floor recruiting, and they can go out. On the floor coaching, and they can go out and recruit. There you have it.
I'm going to have to listen back to that.
Okay, what part? I don't mean this like I tell my kids sometimes, what part didn't you understand? I don't mean that, but I have to ask, what part didn't you understand so I can explain?
So on a home game, all 4 coaches can be on the bench?
You could have 7 guys on the bench.
On the road? On an away game?
On an away game, all the guys can be on the road on an away game, but cannot be on the floor coaching. You know, not all of them can be on the floor coaching, but
And is that
they
something
can
that
take stats and they can.
And is it the same all year round, or can you switch that up during the year?
You could, but we're probably not going to switch it up.
Okay.
Now, anyone can, we can talk as a staff all we want, but, you know, there's one designated coach that cannot coach and instruct the players, but we can go as a staff all we want.
A quick scouting report on
I got time.
Maryland.
Thursday, when we present it to our team, Friday, I'll have a lot more to tell you. As of right now, they're a team that got a lot of players back. They were really good last year. They can change defenses on you, but they're definitely a quality opponent. We have some teams on our schedule that the average fan would have no idea how good they are. Not that you're the average fan and you just asked me what they were like. I wasn't saying that at all. Wasn't implying that at all.
Thank you.
Loyola, Maryland, Colorado State, St. Louis, Reno, those teams are really good because they have a lot returning, and they're veteran teams, and they were successful last year. So Western Washington was a Division II team, but they had a lot returning, and they were successful last year. They're not going to be intimidated on the road, close games. They know how to win because they're accustomed to doing it. So we open up with one of those teams, Loyola, Maryland. They're going to be a team that's accustomed to winning.
And was this tournament something that you had always wanted to get into, or did this just sort of happen?
Personally, we try to get into a national tournament every year. This year's tournament is the Hall of Fame Classic. You know, we've been in the Maui Classic. We've been in the preseason NIT. I believe next year when Coaches versus Cancer. So every year we try to get in a national tournament like this.
With this combination of personalities and talent, do you think you might like coaching this group more with the high post offense than perhaps other groups? It's hard to tell early, I'm sure.
That's one of the reasons we made the change. We thought with this year's personnel, this would fit our personnel more than than our other offense did. Our motion, drive it, make decisions, draw the defense. I don't think this team's makeup had the right makeup to run that. But the high post offense, I think, allows more people in our group to be in positions to have more of an impact.
With Loyola playing their game on Friday, does that help give you guys a little bit more of an edge coming into your game? You've already seen what they've done this year.
Say the first part again, please.
When they play, the game they play on Friday, it's Birmingham or I don't know, whatever team they play on Friday, does that help prepare for your game on Sunday a little bit more than if you hadn't seen them play?
Loyola?
Yeah, Loyola.
Oh, yeah, sure. Because, you know, take us, for example. If you haven't seen us play this year, you're going to look at us last year, and we were playing entirely different offensively in the half court. And I say in the half court because we're not slowing the game down all of a sudden because we're changing our half court. Last year you had to play in the half court, you had to run something. This year in the half court you got to run something. So we're changing what we're running in the half court, but we're still pressuring defensively, we're still up tempo, we're still trying to push the basketball. So in our first game against Western, we had a couple of more possessions than we averaged last year. With that being said, you watch us last year, it doesn't help you as much prepare for us this year. So you see a team play this year. If anyone sees us play this year, they see, oh, well, they're doing some things differently. So it helps.
All right, anything else? All right.
All right, thank you.